All right, so are you ready to dive into the world of XRP?
Let's do it.
Okay, well, the article we're looking at today, it's called, Is XRP the Best Crypto Investment in 2025? Shocking insights.
Yeah, I saw that.
Pretty bold claim, right?
Definitely bold.
So I'm really curious to kind of pick it apart, see what they're basing this on. But before we jump into all of that, I think it's important to make sure everyone listening is on the same page about what XRP even is.
Yeah, for sure. We all hear about Bitcoin and Ethereum, but XRP is a little different.
Right, and this article really zeroes in on XRP specifically, so.
Yeah, XRP, it's the cryptocurrency that Ripple Labs created, and they really designed it with one thing in mind: fast and cheap cross-border transactions. And that's actually one of the things that makes it, pretty popular with financial institutions and banks and things like that.
Yeah, a lot of the other cryptos are still trying to figure that out, so it seems like XRP is kind of ahead of the game there.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not just, talk. They already have partnerships with over 200 banks globally. So,
That's pretty impressive.
yeah, it's not just vaporware. It's a real thing.
So it makes you wonder, like, what's holding it back? And I think the obvious answer
The
is
elephant in the room,
exact.
that lawsuit, that's kind of been looming over everything. The SEC versus Ripple.
Yeah, and, that's been causing a lot of uncertainty for investors and, affecting the price, a lot of volatility, all that. But the article we're looking at calls this a shocking insight. Ripple's been winning some key battles in the courtroom, which I found really interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting because if they win this thing, it could be huge for XRP, right? I mean, we could
Totally.
finally get some regulatory clarity, which is something the whole crypto world desperately needs. And that could attract even more institutions. Like right now, they're kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting to see what happens.
So you think if Ripple wins this thing, it could actually like send the price skyrocketing?
It's definitely possible. I mean, just think about it. You have a win that brings renewed confidence, and then you have all these institutions feeling more comfortable about jumping in, and then you have everyday investors like us who are suddenly like, oh, okay, maybe this is a good time to buy some XRP. That's a recipe for a price surge for sure.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's just imagine for a second Ripple wins the case. Fast forward to 2025, and we're looking at a world where central banks are really starting to embrace digital currencies. Blockchain is going mainstream. It's not this weird fringe thing anymore. Where does XRP fit into all of this? Does it stand a chance against the big players? What do you think?
I think XRP is really well positioned to benefit from all of this. Because, it's not just a digital currency, it's actually designed to act as a bridge currency.
A bridge currency, okay.
Yeah, so think about it this way. You want to exchange currencies, you need some kind of common ground to make that swap happen, right?
Like a middleman.
Exactly. So that's what XRP does for cross-border payments, and it does it really quickly and efficiently.
So is it kind of like the, what's the word, like the universal translator for money?
Exactly, exactly. And Ripple already has a service that uses this whole bridge currency idea called on-demand liquidity, or ODL for short. And the cool thing is it's not just some, theory. It's actually being used right now. And the volume of those transactions is doubling year over year, which
Yeah.
is pretty crazy.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. One of the sources we were looking at said in 2022 alone, there were $22 billion in ODL transactions. And then in 2023, that number jumped to $44 billion.
Wow, that's some serious growth.
Yeah, for sure.
But, the global payments market is massive. Like, what kind of impact could XRP actually have if it captured even a small piece of that?
Well, the global cross-border payments market is worth an estimated $156 trillion.
Yeah.
So even capturing like a tiny fraction of that would be enormous for XRP. Just imagine if it became the go-to bridge for these transactions, faster, cheaper, and more transparent payments across borders. That's a pretty big deal.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this article is coming from now. I mean, the potential really is huge. But, let's be realistic. What are the chances that XRP actually hits those price predictions we see floating around? I think some analysts are saying $5 to $10 by 2025.
Yeah, those are some pretty optimistic predictions, and it's definitely possible. I mean, it's not, out of the realm of possibility, but we got to remember crypto is notoriously volatile. It's like the stock market on caffeine. One day it's up, the next day it's down. So who knows?
Yeah, you're saying don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. It's important to diversify your portfolio and don't invest more than you can afford to lose. That's kind of rule number one in the crypto world. And remember, this is just a starting point for your own research.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we've laid a good foundation here. We've talked about what XRP is, how it works, the potential impact of the lawsuit. But I think now it's time to dive a little deeper into the technical side of things.
Mhm.
What are some of the key features that make XRP stand out from the crowd?
Yeah.
I keep hearing about this XRP ledger. Is that the same thing as blockchain?
So the XRP ledger is basically Ripple's version of a blockchain. It's what makes those super fast and cheap transactions possible. And what's interesting is, unlike some blockchains, it uses a consensus mechanism that doesn't require mining. That energy-intensive process that some other cryptocurrencies use.
So it's more efficient and sustainable.
Yeah, exactly. It's designed to be much more environmentally friendly.
So that's how they achieve those transaction speeds.
Right.
Okay, this is where it starts to get really interesting for me. Um, can you tell me a little more about how this ODL service actually works in practice? Does it really make cross-border payments that much easier?
So picture this. You have a company in the US that needs to pay a supplier in Japan, right? Traditionally, that would involve a bunch of intermediaries, banks and all that. And it would be slow and it would have high fees.
Right.
But with ODL, the US company can use XRP as that bridge currency we were talking about. So they would convert their US dollars to XRP, send it over to the supplier in Japan almost instantly, and then the supplier can just convert that XRP right back into Japanese yen.
So it's kind of like cutting out the middleman.
Exactly, and it happens in real time, so no more waiting days for the money to clear. It really streamlines the whole process, and that's why some financial institutions are so excited about XRP and ODL. They're starting to see how this could revolutionize the way money moves around the world.
Yeah, okay. That's pretty impressive. So we've got this technology that enables these really fast and cheap cross-border payments, and Ripple's already working with all these big institutions to put it into practice. But what about the competition? Are there other cryptos out there trying to do the same thing?
That's a great question. And the answer is yes. There are other projects out there that are also targeting the cross-border payments market. One example is Stellar Lumens. That's often considered a direct competitor to XRP. But the thing is, Ripple kind of has a head start, in terms of these partnerships and the real-world adoption.
So it's not just about the technology, it's about the connections they've already made.
Yeah, exactly. And the relationships they've built with all these established players in the financial world, that gives them a big advantage.
Right, because that world relies on trust.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about the potential impact of the lawsuit, XRP's unique features, and even touched on the competition. But before we move on, I kind of want to take a step back and ask you, what are some of the biggest misconceptions about XRP that you've come across? What do people often get wrong?
Well, one of the biggest misconceptions is that XRP is completely controlled by Ripple Labs. It's like people think it's just their own little private playground, but that's not actually true. While Ripple does hold a significant portion of XRP, the ledger itself is decentralized, so no single entity has complete control over it.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah, and another misconception is that XRP is only for banks and, these big financial institutions. And while it's true that Ripple has really focused on those partnerships initially, anyone can use XRP for transactions, and it's actually gaining traction in other areas like micropayments and remittances, which is pretty cool.
So it has the potential to really benefit people on an individual level, too.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's more than just this tool for the big guys. And I think that's why it's important to look beyond just the headlines and really try to understand the nuances of XRP and the technology behind it.
So what I'm hearing is there's a lot more to XRP than meets the eye.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not just a speculative asset. It's a technology with real-world applications.
Exactly. And, it could really change the way we handle money globally.
Okay, that's really exciting. But before we get too carried away, I think it's also important to talk about the risks involved. I mean, we've touched on the volatility of crypto, but what are some other potential red flags investors should be aware of when it comes to XRP specifically? What could go wrong?
Well, the biggest risk besides that ongoing lawsuit we talked about is regulatory uncertainty, right? Because governments around the world are still trying to figure out how to deal with cryptocurrencies. And new regulations could pop up anytime, and that could definitely impact XRP's adoption and its price. Imagine like some major economy decides to just ban crypto altogether, right?
Yeah.
That would not be good. And then there's always the risk of competition, right? I mean, new technologies could emerge, they could be faster, cheaper, or more secure. So XRP is not immune to disruption.
Yeah, you're right. So even with all this potential, it's not a guaranteed win.
Definitely not. That's why it's so important to do your research, understand the risks involved, and don't invest more than you're comfortable losing.
That's great advice. So for those of you listening, take note. Don't get caught up in the hype. All right. Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with a question to think about. Knowing what you now know about XRP, how do you think it could impact your own financial life? Could it change the way you send or receive money internationally?
That's a great question to ponder, and I think as we move into the next part of our deep dive, we're going to explore those possibilities even further.
All right, so that's it for part one of our deep dive into XRP. We've covered a lot, but we've only scratched the surface. Stick around, because in part two, we're going to take a closer look at those price predictions, explore what factors could drive the value up or down in the coming years. See you soon. All right, so welcome back to our deep dive into XRP.
Round two.
Round two, exactly. In the last part, we talked about what XRP is, how it works, all those impressive partnerships that Ripple has, and of course, that big SEC lawsuit looming over everything. But now I think it's time to talk about something I know everyone's curious about. Price predictions.
All right, let's talk numbers.
Let's do it. The article that we're focusing on for this deep dive, they're throwing out some pretty bold predictions. They're saying XRP could hit like $5 to $10 in 2025, which
That's a big jump.
it is a big jump,
Okay.
and a lot has to go right
Yeah.
for that to happen. Like you said before, Ripple needs to win that lawsuit for one thing.
Yeah, that's kind of a prerequisite.
Yeah. So assuming they do win, what are the analysts looking at when they make these kinds of price predictions? What are the key factors that could actually drive the price up that high?
Well, I think the biggest one is adoption. We talked about how those ODL transactions are doubling year over year, but what if that growth just explodes?
But yeah.
Imagine way more financial institutions start using XRP, integrating it into their systems. That would create a ton of demand, and when demand goes up, well,
Price goes up.
yeah,
Supply and demand. Right.
yeah.
Economics 101.
Exactly. So it's not just about hype, it's about real-world usage. Think of it this way. If XRP actually becomes the preferred bridge currency for all these global payments, its value is directly tied to how many transactions are happening. The more people are using it, institutions are using it, the higher the demand, and that usually translates to a higher price.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But let's play devil's advocate for a second. What could potentially derail those optimistic predictions? Besides the obvious, the lawsuit, what are some of the challenges XRP might face on its path to, say, $5 or $10?
Well, one of the biggest hurdles I see is regulatory uncertainty. Governments all over the world are still figuring out how they want to approach crypto in general. And new regulations could pop up anytime that could really impact XRP, how it's adopted, and of course the price. Imagine if like a major economy like the US or China suddenly decides to ban crypto. That would be a big blow.
Yeah, so even if XRP has all the right tech, the partnerships, the government regulations could still mess things up.
Yeah, for sure. And we also can't forget about competition. The crypto landscape changes so fast. New projects are popping up all the time. Some of them might offer similar solutions to what XRP is doing, maybe even better.
Oh, yeah.
So if a competitor comes along that's faster, cheaper, or more secure, that could take away some of XRP's market share.
Yeah, you're right. It's kind of a reminder that even with a project like XRP that's relatively established, there's no guarantee of success.
Yeah, I mean, predicting the price of any cryptocurrency is kind of like predicting the weather.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
There are so many variables at play. You can look at the trends, make educated guesses, but you never really know for sure.
Yeah, so don't bet the farm on XRP hitting $10 in 2025.
Exactly. Investing in crypto is always risky, and it's important to remember that. Diversify, do your own research, all that good stuff.
Always good advice. It's easy to get caught up in all the price talk and the potential profits. But I think it's important to remember that XRP isn't just about making money, right? It's a technology that has the potential to make a real difference in the world.
Oh, absolutely. We've talked about how XRP can make cross-border payments faster and cheaper, but think about the impact on remittances. Millions of people rely on sending money back home to their families.
Yeah.
And if they could do that instantly and without these huge fees using XRP, that could be life-changing for a lot of families.
Yeah, it could really level the playing field in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not just about the money, it's about the potential social impact as well.
Right. I think that's something we often forget when we're talking about crypto. It's important to step back and think about the bigger picture.
Yeah, you're right. All right, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to touch on something we haven't discussed yet, the role of community in the XRP ecosystem. Because it seems like XRP has a particularly passionate and active community of supporters.
Oh, yeah. The XRP community is amazing. They're super engaged, always sharing information, talking about the latest developments, and advocating for wider adoption. It's pretty impressive.
So even though Ripple is the company behind XRP, the community is playing a key role in its growth and development.
For sure, they're spreading awareness, they're educating people who are new to crypto, and they're helping to shape the future of XRP.
Wow, that's pretty cool. What role do you see the community playing in the years to come? Do you think they'll continue to be a driving force behind adoption?
Oh, absolutely. Their passion and knowledge are invaluable. I mean, they're the ones on the front lines talking to people, explaining what XRP is all about. They're the best advocates XRP could ask for.
So it's not just about the technology, it's about the people who believe in it.
Exactly. And that's one of the things I find so inspiring about crypto in general. It's not just about code and algorithms, it's about people coming together to build something new, something that could change the world.
Well said. All right, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive. We've talked about price predictions, potential challenges, the social impact, and the role of the community. Before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with something to think about. What are your thoughts on this balance between profit and purpose when it comes to investing in something like XRP? Do you think it's possible to make money and make a positive impact on the world at the same time?
That's the question we all have to grapple with, right? Can we align our financial goals with our desire to make the world a better place? It's something to think about, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good question. And in the next part, we're going to explore some resources and tools that can help you make more informed decisions about XRP and the future of finance. Okay, so welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into XRP. We've covered a lot of ground here, talked about the lawsuit, the community, even some price predictions. But, at this point, some of you listening might be wondering, where can I go to learn more?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, what are some good resources if you want to do your own research, really dive deep and, stay up to date on all the latest developments with XRP?
Well, I always recommend starting at the source, Ripple's official website.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
They have a ton of information on there about XRP, the technology, all the use cases. You can really geek out on the technical details of the XRP ledger if you want.
But what if you want to go a little beyond the company line? Like, where can you find some more objective analysis, you know, get some different perspectives on the whole XRP ecosystem?
Yeah, there are actually a lot of great resources out there. CoinDesk is one that I often recommend.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of CoinDesk.
Yeah, they have a whole section dedicated to XRP news and analysis. And they cover pretty much everything, price movements, regulation, all that good stuff.
Okay.
Masari is another good one. They do these in-depth research reports on a bunch of different cryptos, including XRP.
Nice.
They can get kind of technical, but if you really want to dive into the data, they're a great resource.
So we've got the company website, CoinDesk for news, and Masari for more of a deep dive. But what about the community aspect we talked about earlier? Like, are there forums, communities where you can connect with other XRP enthusiasts, kind of learn from their experiences?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a really active community online. XRPchat.com is a popular forum where a lot of XRP holders and enthusiasts hang out. You'll find a good mix of people there, from experienced investors to people who are just starting out.
Nice. Okay. And of
Which
course,
there's always Twitter.
Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta love crypto Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. The XRP community is really active on there. Tons of great discussions and updates. It's a good way to stay plugged in and see what people are talking about.
Okay, so I've got my reading list, I've got my social media feeds all set up. But, let's be honest. Crypto can be a pretty overwhelming world, especially if you're just starting out. What advice would you give to someone who's brand new to all of this? What are some of the pitfalls they should try to avoid?
Well, I think the most important thing is just to start slow. Don't get caught up in the hype. It's easy to get swept away by all the excitement, the potential profits, but it's important to remember that crypto is still a pretty young asset class. It's volatile. So don't invest more than you can afford to lose, and make sure you diversify.
So basically, manage your expectations and be realistic about the risks.
Yeah, exactly. And don't be afraid to ask questions. The crypto community is actually pretty welcoming and helpful for the most part. There are so many resources and educational materials online, so take your time, learn the basics, and don't rush into anything.
That's great advice. So as we wrap up this deep dive into XRP, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with? What's the big picture here?
I think the key takeaway is this. The financial world is changing, and it's changing fast. And cryptocurrencies like XRP are a big part of that transformation. Now, whether XRP will succeed in the long run, who knows?
Right.
But it's definitely a story worth following.
Yeah, for sure. So it's not about blindly jumping on the bandwagon. It's about staying informed, asking the right questions, and forming your own opinions. And remember, this is just the beginning of your exploration. The world of crypto is constantly evolving, so stay curious, keep learning, and who knows, maybe you'll make some shocking discoveries of your own along the way. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into XRP. We hope you found it helpful, and we'll catch you next time.